What's up, everybody? It's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and you know me. I don't like to be negative when it comes to football. I'm a positive guy. I'm always looking on the bright side of things, but we have to be realistic. And when we know the RB position is one that's going to give us tons of injuries and tons of uncertainty, it's important to take a strong look and an honest one at some running backs that could potentially hurt us in 2024 drafts. And I know some of these names are going to be big and you're going to get mad at me, but just understand it's not that you can't draft these guys, but you have to understand the risk that is involved when you do. And there's potential, again, potential for them to bust in 2024 and basically crush all of your hopes and dreams. On that note, let's get to the names on my list. Let's start with number 8, Austin Ekeler of the Washington Commanders. What a fall from grace it was for Austin Ekeler, who last year started off as a first-round running back only to end up as RB28 on the year. Sure, an ankle sprain had to miss some time early on, but among 49 qualifying running backs, Ekeler ranked 38th in yards after contact per attempt and 46th in missed tackles forced per attempt. Those aren't good numbers. Now he finds himself in Washington, and the danger of Austin Ekeler is this. He's a big name. People are used to Austin Ekeler being a top running back in their fantasy leagues. The trouble is, now he is fighting for carries with Brian Robinson Jr. in this backfield, which figures to be very run-heavy, but he's going to lose those goal line carries to Robinson Jr. and possibly to Jaden Daniels, the speedy rookie quarterback that the Commanders just drafted. So Ekeler's fantasy value really could be in limbo, so don't be fooled by the name brand value at a discount. You're getting a discount for a reason, so pass, because to me, the bust potential is too big to endure. Number 7 on our list, Tony Pollard of the Tennessee Titans. Pollard was supposed to finish as a top RB last year, but instead, he finished as RB 18 overall. Sure, he did have 1,000 yards rushing last year, but you have to understand he is moving from an offense that was really good in Dallas to an offense that's really bad in Tennessee. Will Levis is still very unproven, so although he might get a lot of carries, remember, he's also going to lose touches to Tyjae Spears, who is still hanging around that backfield. Not to mention, the efficiency of this offense is not going to be very good, which means moving the chains and getting Tony Pollard more opportunities to give you fantasy points could be a struggle in 2024. Last year, Pollard was coming off major surgery. This year, he is healthy in quotation marks and looking to bounce back, and that is where the danger begins. If you pay too much for the potential bounce back of a guy who was supposed to be great last year and wasn't great on a very good offense, what's going to happen in 2024 when you take that player and drop him in a below average offense? The answer, bad things, man, bad things. Number 6 on our list, DeAndre Swift of the Chicago Bears. Now, like the other guys on this list so far, he is a running back of note on a new team, and everyone gets excited for the guy with the fresh coat of paint. The problem is, rushing touchdowns don't always befall DeAndre Swift. In fact, if you go back the last 3 years, well, in 2023, he had 5 rushing touchdowns. In 2022, he had 5 rushing touchdowns. And in 2021, guess how many rushing touchdowns he had? 6. No, just kidding. It was 5. So the problem is, when we get down to the nitty-gritty, to the points that really matter, those big touchdown moments, DeAndre Swift is not that guy who gets the ball in those scenarios. Last year, he lost a ton of rushing equity touchdowns to Jalen Hurts, and the year before that, Jamal Williams just scored 17 touchdowns at the goal line for the Lions. So DeAndre Swift might be a guy that's still going to get you 800 to even 1,000 yards rushing. When it comes to punching the ball in the end zone or getting those big plays and those big moments, when you're looking around this offense with Caleb Williams, it's hard to see how DeAndre Swift is that guy. So it could be another year of 5 touchdowns, which would make DeAndre Swift potentially a bust in 2024. Number 5, Joe Mixon of the Houston Texans. My goodness, what a theme we're running here of running backs in new places. But Joe Mixon last year, his success was largely attributed to what? Volume, because Joe Burrow got hurt, so they handed the ball off a ton to Joe Mixon. The problem is, he wasn't the most efficient guy. Last season, Mixon's touch efficiency was basically awful. He was 36th in yards per touch, 35th in yards created per touch, and 41st in breakaway run rate. Now, of course, he still finished as an RB1. That's going to be a little bit tougher to sell me in 2024, because now that he's with the Houston Texans, CJ Stroud is going to want to throw the football a ton in this offense. They just signed Nico Collins to an extension. They brought in Stephon Diggs. Tank Dell's going to be back, hopefully healthy to start the year, and Dalton Schultz is still around too. Now, I don't think that Joe Mixon has to worry about losing carries to guys like Dameon Pierce or Dario Ogunbowale. But at the same time, Joe Mixon might not be quite as good as he was last season, considering I don't think that volume is going to quite be there, even though the offense has the potential to be very good. So if you take a guy's opportunities away and he's not very efficient, that to me is a recipe for potential bust. So be careful when drafting Joe Mixon in 2024. Let's take a quick break in the action to tell you about how you can put all of this knowledge into actual practice by joining our Fantasy Pros Championship drafts over at FFPC. Yes, the tournament is officially open, and it's your opportunity to come away with $1 million. That's right, $1 million to the first place prize. $350 entry fee. Go to fantasypros.com/FFPC. Use that promo code FantasyPros when you sign up to get $25 off your first entry. And if you sign up soon, you get that early bird discount if you register by June 15th and draft your teams by June 30th. That's another $35 team credit. What a time to be alive. So join the FFPC Fantasy Pros tournament today and win that $1 million. And if you have an opportunity, maybe give me, I don't know, a couple thousand. I'm just kidding. It's all for you. I want you to win. Let's get back to the players. Number 4 on our list, Achane of the Miami Dolphins. What an exciting guy Achane was in 2023, his rookie season. 11 games played, 11 touchdowns. Ooh-wee, the upside is huge. But so is the downside when it comes to Achane, because you are looking at a player that's still working with Raheem Mostert around. And if you told me last year Raheem Mostert would play as many games as he did or score as many touchdowns as he did, I would have said you are absolutely crazy. But he did, and he was annoying, and it really did stunt Achane, not to mention the fact that Achane also missed time with injuries in the beginning of the year and during the season, and if you're missing time, it's hard to be productive in fantasy. The upside is absolutely huge. We all acknowledge that, but don't forget about the downside when you're drafting him, and right now, you have to take him as basically a fringe RB1/RB2, and that's a pretty significant cost. Also, don't forget about the frame. He is a smaller guy, speedy as he might be. This is the NFL, so it could be a challenge for him to be healthy over 17 full games and be a starter over that run. And despite the fact that he is explosive and incredibly fun to watch, if he is not on the field, it's hard for him to be something that you can invest in fantasy and realize the bust potential is there, because when you're missing games, you're getting zeros, and zeros mean you're eating L's, and I hate L's. They're gross. Number 3, Josh Jacobs of the Green Bay Packers. Last year for the Raiders, Josh Jacobs had a disappointing season, but it was not surprising considering in 2022, he was coming off a year where he had over 400 touches. We knew that was going to take its toll on Josh Jacobs, and it did. His yards per carry went from 4.9 to 3.5, and hopefully he can break back into the good graces of fantasy managers this year with the Green Bay Packers. The trouble is this. It's got a situation in Green Bay that could be very volatile. If Josh Jacobs misses any time, they did draft Marshawn Lloyd, who was one of the better running backs in this recent draft, and he has already gotten a lot of praise being heaped upon him from head coach Matt LaFleur, calling him the next Aaron Jones. And last time I checked, Aaron Jones was the preferred running back in Green Bay the last few years, so that style could be something the Packers turn to sooner than later for the guy in Josh Jacobs who really made for the most of his volume in 2022, and then last year was a guy that looked kind of like a shell of himself. Could Jacobs bounce back? Sure, but right now you have to draft him as a top 10 running back, and the bust potential is there because if at any time this season he either misses time or gives up carries to Marshawn Lloyd, Josh Jacobs' fantasy value could take a significant hit. So just keep that in mind. There's bust potential for Josh Jacobs. He is not necessarily the security blanket at the running back position that you might think he is. Number 2, Kyren Williams of the Los Angeles Rams. This guy was a league winner last year, and this one really hurts me because Kyren Williams was a good story. Last year, he had 1,100 rushing yards, caught 32 balls, and scored 15 total touchdowns. What a season off the waiver wire it was for Kyren Williams, and he still plays in this explosive offense for Sean McVay. So what's the problem? How could he bust? Well, he's back to having foot issues again, and these foot issues have been a problem for Kyren Williams in the past, so much so that he has missed some time the last few seasons, and now in the offseason, he's already dealing with missing time because of another foot injury. It's been ankles, it's been feet, it's been a lot of leg injuries, and for a running back, that's never a good thing. So the only thing that can really stop Kyren Williams, I think, this year, to be honest, isn't Blake Corum. It isn't a high-powered passing attack. It's really the health, and the foot issues so far in OTAs are enough to make me a little afraid of Kyren Williams, to drop him in my ranks. I'm not saying you can't draft him, but I am saying the bust potential is there, because if he can't get past these foot issues, he is going to be a guy that does not return his fantasy value, and Blake Corum is going to end up working a lot more in this backfield than people realize. So tread carefully when it comes to Kyren Williams in 2024. And who has the biggest bust potential in 2024? Of course, it's the #1 running back on the board, Christian McCaffrey of the San Francisco 49ers. McCaffrey was brilliant last year. Before you get mad and turn off this video, hang in there for a moment. I know he led the league in rushing. It was incredible. But I want to talk about the volume of the year and what it might mean for him this season. I talked earlier about the 400 touches that Josh Jacobs had and what it looked like the following season for him. Now, I'm not saying Josh Jacobs is Christian McCaffrey by any stretch of the means. McCaffrey is a very special player. But if you do look at the regular season and the postseason combined, he had 417 touches last year. That is a lot of wear and tear on Christian McCaffrey. Maybe nobody works harder, maybe nobody works smarter, and there isn't a more valuable fantasy player, one would argue. But you can't dismiss the potential for bust, because when you are spending a first overall pick on a player and he does not perform up to your expectations, or worse, ends up missing significant time because of injury, well, that's something that is basically going to end your fantasy season before it begins. I understand that he's had some injuries in the past, and I'm not trying to say he's injury prone or injury plagued. I'm just saying 417 touches is a lot for any player, especially one like Christian McCaffrey, who is going to be leaned on heavily in 2024, just like he has been his entire career by every team. Again, don't hate the player, but recognize the bust potential. There you have it, everybody. Those are the names of potential busts for running backs in 2024, but I like to hear from you, so drop your comments below right here and subscribe to Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Ring that bell for notifications till it goes ding, and again, drop some good names here at the running back position that absolutely scare the heck out of you, and maybe I'll avoid drafting them. That'll do it for me, Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.